Hello, I'm back with another Sudoku. This time it's Catapult the Fortress. I don't know. To me, this kind of looks like a catapult, and then this is called a fortress clue, which is where the name comes from. There's also a little killer clue, but that didn't make it into the title. Anyway, yeah, it's hopefully you can tell from the length of this video. Hopefully, I'll be able to solve it relatively quickly. It won't be too long. But this is very much the calm before the storm. Not that this isn't a good puzzle. I think it is. It's good fun to solve. But this week I have spent a lot of time playing around with what, as far as I know, is a new rule set. I certainly haven't come across it before. And I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's got a lot of potential. Not unlimited potential because of the way that the rule set interacts with normal Sudoku rules. It's not unlimited, but I think there's enough that there could be some really cool Sudokus in there, and I've already made 3, and those 3 are good fun. It's possible that that's it, and I won't make any more good ones from that rule set, but if that's to be the case, then I will present to you next week 3 Sudokus with this exciting new rule set. I hope you are very much excited about what's to come. Alternatively, you're just screaming at the screen saying, well, what is this rule set? Just as a little teaser then, it's to do with drawing in a kind of snake, something like this, for example, and then the snake has certain properties, and the interaction of where the snake is allowed to go with the properties that the snake needs. It's not actually a snake, it's a train in my rule set. It's quite interesting. It's got good potential. So do stick around. Do like, comment, and subscribe. Well, I guess just subscribe if you want to see that video next week. I think it's a good one. But for now, let's have a look at this one, Catapult the Fortress. This is one I made a few weeks ago. It's all very symmetrical. It's all very nice and neat. Yeah, let's give it a go. So normal Sudoku rules apply. That means every row, column, and 3x3 box must include the digits 1 to 9 exactly once. Digits along an arrow sum to the digit in that arrow's circle. So those 2 digits sum to that. And those 2 digits sum to that, and so on. And also, just for clarity, when there's a circle that has 2 arrows coming out of it, so this one, for example, these are separate sums, so it's not correct to say that these 4 add up to that. That's not correct. What is correct is that these 2 add up to that, and separately these 2 add up to that. You can see there's quite a mess of arrowheads going on in here, but hopefully it's fairly clear where all the arrows are pointing. That one goes into those 2 cells, that one into those 2. Yeah, it's all symmetrical. It's all exactly what you expect. It's just a bit difficult to tell when it's such a mess like that. Alright, the digit in the fortress cell, this is the fortress cell, is larger than both orthogonally adjacent cells. So that just means this digit is bigger than those 2. Pretty simple. The indicated diagonal sums to 34 and may include repeated digits if allowed by the rules, i.e. normal Sudoku rules. So yeah, that can include repeats, and that's it. That is the rule set. As always, I'll leave a link in the description below for you to have a go at this puzzle. If not, then enjoy my solution. And once again, I will try desperately on the spot to think of something that isn't Let's Get Cracking, because that's been taken by Cracking the Cryptic. Let's start solving. Yeah, it's not as catchy, is it? Anyway, let's have a look. So first of all, your eyes should be drawn to this arrow clue. This is a huge arrow for 1 digit, so how can we possibly fill that? Well, let's minimize these. The minimum that we can make these 3 cells, because they all share a column, is 1, 2, and 3. And the minimum we can make these 2 cells, because they both share a column, is 1 and 2. They can't be the same. These can't be the same. We can make them 2 of the same digits if they are allowed by normal Sudoku rules. So yeah, we have a look at that, and what does that add up to? 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 1 plus 2 is 9. and it can't be any higher than 9, and it can't be any lower than 9. So it is 9, and that's not a 9. This is a 9. Good. And by symmetry, we can say exactly the same thing over here. In fact, while I think of it, this entire grid, if we ignore the 34 clue, this entire grid is completely symmetrical around here. So as long as we're not using this 34 clue, we know that any logic we do over here, we can repeat exactly over on this side of the grid. So let's fill that in. 1, 2 and 3 there, and 1 and 2 there. That's the symmetrical mirror image. Okay, right, now that we've got that, we've got a 9, 1, 2 and 3 in these positions. So those digits cannot go in these positions. They must all therefore go in here. Can we ever put a 9 on a 2-cell arrow? No, because that would have to be at least 10, or one of those would have to be 0. It just doesn't work. So the 9 will have to go here, and the 1, 2 and 3 have to go here. Now let's try not putting the 3 in the corner. So if we put the 3 here, then this will end up being a 1, 2 pair, and that will end up being 3 to sum the 1 and 2 together, and that doesn't work. And by symmetry, the 3 can't go there with a 1, 2 pair there either, so it must be a 3 there and the 1, 2 pair here. If that's a 3 and a 1, it's a 4, and if it's a 3 and a 2, it's a 5, and similarly over here. That leaves 6, 7 and 8 in the remainder of this box. We know that these two sum to 9. Can it be a 7 or an 8? Well, if it's a 7 or an 8, that makes that a 1 or a 2. And we know that that absolutely cannot be a 1 or a 2, because its column, row and box all have 1 and 2 taken. So it can't be that, it must be 3, so that must be 6. Alright, that means we can get rid of 6s from here now as well. Okay. Now, what do we do here? Well, whether this sums to 7 or 8, we need one of these digits to be a 1, 2 or 3. Because we need a low digit and a higher digit. So, you know, if we made this 4 and 5, that's too much. So at least one of them is going to have to be a low digit from 1, 2 and 3. And where is that going to be? Well, it's not going to be here, because that sees a 3 and a 1, 2 pair. So that must be the high digit. So this must be the 1, 2 or 3. And this must be a higher digit, 4, 5, 6 or 7. So it could be 1 and 7 to maximise this cell, or it could be 3 and 4 to minimise this cell, adding up to 8 and 7 respectively. And we can do exactly the same thing down here, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3. But now we've got a 1, 2, 3 triple in the box. So this arrow, well, these arrows, cannot have 1, 2 or 3 in anymore. So the minimum we can make them is 4 and 5. And in fact, that's what they have to be, because we can't make these any higher than 9. Alright. So that's those. And because of the 4, 5 pairs, we can now take 4 and 5 out of here. And now we can reassess this cell. Can it be a 3? Well, if it's a 3, the minimum we can make that is 6, so that would have to be a 9. No, doesn't work, so that's not a 3. And similarly, that's not a 3, so the 3 definitely goes in these positions, in those boxes, which means they do not go there. Okay, what's left in these boxes? It's a 6, 7 and 8. Might as well write those in for now. Okay, now let's try to put a 7 in one of these two. This one's a little bit more difficult to spot, but let's try putting a 7 in one of these two. If we do, then that has to be a 1 and an 8. It can't be anything else anymore. That forces a 7 into here, which means that can't be a 7 and a 0, so it has to be a 6 and a 1. And now we've got two 1s pointing at the only two squares that it's possible to have a 1 in this box. So that breaks. So we cannot put a 7 in either of those. We can't put it there, and by symmetry we can't put it there. So they must both be 6. So that's a 1, 2 pair. that's a 1-2 pair. We just need to work out which way round. And now that we've got a 6 there, obviously we can take 6s out of here. We can do a little bit more work on the middle box now. Where is a 9 going to go? Obviously it's not going to go on an arrow because these can't be bigger than 9, so a 9 goes in here. Where's an 8 going to go? Well, if an 8 does go on an arrow, it's going to be 8 plus 3, and then we'll end up with an 11 over here. That doesn't work, so the 8 has to be over here as well. And the 7, if it's 7, if the 7 is on the arrow plus 3, we'd need a 10 in here, so that doesn't work. So the 7 also has to be in one of the circles. In other words, we have a 7, 8, 9 triple, which then gives us a 4, 5, 6 triple in the remainder of the box. But this 6 and this 6 point at these cells respectively, so that must be the 6. And now 3 plus 6 along that arrow equals 9. So we can take 9 out of these two. I'm sure you'll be noticing all sorts of symmetry going on, and possibly asking how are we going to tell these apart. And that does come later. If you're an experienced Sudoku solver, you'll probably have solved many puzzles like this before, where you get loads and loads of pairs, and it's not until right at the end that you are able to disambiguate which one is which. So yes, be patient, young Padawan, or whatever the quote is. I never really got into Star Wars. Maybe I should. Anyway, where was I? Right, let's have a look at this box, because again we have that kind of pinching effect that we had with the 9, 1, 2, 3 into this box. This time we have it with 9, 1, 2 all going into here. Well, in particular we have it with the 9. The 9's the most interesting one, because the 9s can't go in here anymore. They definitely can't go on an arrow because that would make that a 0. And they can't be less than whatever this is, so it must be a 9 in here. And I'm afraid that's the only information that this fortress cell gives us, that the 9 is there instead of there or there. It's a little bit annoying to have to add an entire extra rule just to distinguish between, you know, where the 9 goes, but sadly the rest of the rules just left the end game with a deadly pattern where you couldn't tell where the 9 was, and it just swapped around with other digits that were also part of the deadly pattern. But anyway, a little bit annoying, but you know, it means that I can call it Catapult the Fortress, and that is a kind of thematic title. Anyway, I'm stalling for time here. Let's keep going. Let's have a look at these arrows, because this can't be 1 or 2 because we've got a 1-2 pair in the row, and this can't be 1 or 2 because we've got a 1-2 pair in the column, and by symmetry that can't be 1 or 2 and that can't be 1 or 2, so these can't include a 1 or 2, so they must both include 3s, because we said earlier that if you've got a 7 or 8, they must include a low digit where low is 1, 2 or 3. So now they must include 3s, and they must be along with a 4 or 5. So if it's a 3, if that was a 7, that would need to be a 4, and if that was an 8 and a 3, that would need to be a 5. So there's a 3 in there or there along with a 4 or 5, but there's a 4-5 pair here telling us that that can't be the 4-5, so it must be the 3. And similarly, 4-5 pair here tells us that that is a 3, and the 4-5 must go in here. Right, what's next? Let's have a look. Let's have a look at 3s. Yes, there's a bit more we can do with 3s. The 3 here now tells us that's not a 3, so that is. And the 3 here by symmetry. Symmetry. Yeah, that's bad. So we've got a bit more on 3s. We now know that we've got 6 of our 3s, in fact. So we need a 3 over here, and over here, and over here. Should we have a think about this one? I don't think we know enough about it yet, actually. No, I know. This is one of the more satisfying moments in the puzzle. It's where does a 6 go? Well, where do the 6s go? Let's have a look at the 6s. Those are all our 6s so far. Where does a 6 go in this row? Well, it can't be where we've already got stuff marked that isn't 6. It can't be there because there's a 6 in the column. Can't be there because there's a 6 in the column, so it must be there or there. Similarly, in this column, it can't be there, can't be there, can't be there or there, can't be there, can't be there, so it must be there or there. But if it's there, that denies both of the options for this row, and if it's there, that denies both of the options for this column. So it can't be there or there, it must be there. And now we know that, obviously we can do 9 equals 6 plus something, it's 3, and that means we can finish off all of our 3s for the grid. Do we know anything else about 6s? There's a 6 there or there, and there's a 6 there or there, and there or there, and there or there. Yeah, that's as much as we know about 6s for now. Now, I don't even want to add them in, to be honest. Let's let's keep going with other things. So we already said about this pinching effect of the 1, 2s. So the 1 and 2 in this box can't go in here, can't go in here, it can't go where there's already stuff, so they must be there and there, and that just leaves 7 and 8 in the remainder of this box. Alright, well, what's left in this column then? We've already got 9, 6, 3. In fact, we've pretty much... Oh yes, if we put a 9 there and there, apart from those 6s we marked and then unmarked, we've got all of the 3s, 6s and 9s. It's just these 4, 5 pairs, 1, 2 pairs and 7, 8 pairs all over the place that we are yet to resolve. So let's have a look down this column. We've got the 3, 6, 9, we've got both of the 1 and 2, we've got one of the 4 or 5 and one of the 7 or 8. So one of these is a 4 or 5 and the other one is a 7 or 8. That one can't be a 7 or 8 because we've already got a 7, 8 pair in the row. So that one must be 4, 5. And in fact we can finish this row because, well, kind of, because that one is a 1, 2. It's the only other place in the row for the other one out of 1 and 2. And just to go back to this column, that is the 7, 8. So let's do exactly the same over here. That must be a 4, 5. That must be a 7, 8. That must be a 1, 2. Now we can just go through other rows, other columns. This one must be done now, apart from this. So it's not 1 or 2, it's not 7 or 8, it's not 3, 6, 9, it's 4, 5. And now we've got that. Oh yes, in this bottom row, oh hang on, we can do the same up there, that's a 4, 5. In this bottom row, we need a 1 or 2 and a 6. Well, the 1 or 2 can't go in here, so that must be the 6. And similarly, the 1 or 2 can't go in here, so that must be the 6. And these are both 1 and 2. This means that in here we are left with a 4 or 5 and a 7 or 8. Well, the 4, 5 can't go in this column. We've finished with those, so that must be the 4, 5. That must be the 7, 8. Similarly, in this row, we've got a 4 or 5 left to place and a 7 or 8 left to place, and the 4, 5 again means that that can't be in this row, in this column, so that must be that way round. So let's just do the symmetrical stuff over here. That's 7 and 8. Oh, we can finish off the 6s now, of course, and then this very last one is a 7 or 8. And there we go, that's the puzzle finished. Well, of course, it's not. We're stuck because everything is a pair. Everything is stuck in a pair, and we don't know where to go from here. Well, of course, we do know where to go from here. There is one clue that we have not yet used, and it's this 34 diagonal. It's the only asymmetrical clue in the entire grid, so it must be what determines which way round all of this stuff is. So the 34, we've already got 15. 6 plus 6 plus 3 is 15. And then let's add up the minimums. So 7 plus 4 plus 1 plus 4 is 16. So 15 plus 16, that's 31. So the minimum we can make it is 31. And the maximum we can make it is 5 plus 2 plus 5 plus 8 is 20. So 15 plus 20 is 35. So it's a minimum of 31, a maximum of 35. So we need 3 of these to be the high version of the whichever pair they are, and 1 of them to be the low version, in order to make it 3 up from the minimum and 1 down from the maximum in terms of the 31 to 35 range that we know exists. So how do we know which 3? And it's at this point where we get colouring. So let's start over here. Why not? So let's say this is... Let's pretend that this is the low version. And we're going to call low blue. So so this is the blue version. So if that's the low version, that's a 4. So that would also be the low version, because that would be the 1. And that would mean this would be the high version. Let's make it red. And that would also be the high version. Okay, that means this one has to be low because it sees a red 4-5, so it must be a blue 4-5. This must be the red 4-5. This blue 1-2 sees the red, sees this 1-2, so that 1-2 must be the red version. That must be the blue version. That must be the red version. I'm going to carry on. Feel free to twiddle your thumbs while I do this. It may take a while. That will be blue. That will be red. In fact, let's just go through all of the red 1-2s. So we've got these 4 so far. That one, that one, that one, that one. I'm just doing this by normal Sudoku at this point because, you know, in here it must be there, and in here, oh no. If I know that that's red, then that can't be red, so it must be there. So if I know that that's red, that can't be red, so it must be there. So if I know that that's red, that can't be red. So it's essentially just normal Sudoku. We're just doing it with pairs instead of normal numbers. So those are all red. Let's go through the blue 1-2s. That must be blue, 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 blue. What have I missed? I think that's all of them. No, that is yellow. Knowledge bomb there. Right, let's go through the 4-5. So we said that one was red, so that will be blue, so that will be red, and red, and red, 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 and red, and I think that's all of them. That will be blue, 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 blue. That's all of them. But we don't have the 7-8 sorted. Well, we can just look at any of these arrows. This one, if we're saying that's the high version or the red version, it's not very helpful to think of them as high and low, but let's say it's the red version, and let's pretend that the red version is 2. Then that's going to be 8. So that's going to be the the red version as well. So that will be red. That means that's not red, so that is, and that is, and that isn't, so that is, that isn't, that is, that isn't, that is, and where there's one there, there's one there, and there, and that's all of the red 7-8s, and we can go through everything else, and it's blue. There we go. So that's all of them done. So, looking back at this diagonal, as you can see, there are 3 blues and 1 red, and remember we needed 3 of them to be the high version and 1 of them to be the low version. Well, you might have guessed it. I was having you on. I was giving you a blue herring by suggesting that this might be the low version when we started colouring. This is indeed the high version, so blue in fact equals high and red is low. So, clicking is going to be a nightmare, but let's just go through and click them individually. So these must be the high versions. So they are all 5, and the red 4-5 must be the 4. What have I missed? That one, good. And now the 1-2s. The red 1-2 must be the low version because red is low, so it must be 1. So that's 1, 1. You can pretty much see where this is going now. The Sudoku is more or less finished. It's just an awful lot of clicking, but I find it quite satisfying because you go from a third of the grid completed because we had all the threes, sixes, and 9s completed. The 8 is the high version, isn't it? Yeah, a third of the grid completed, and all of a sudden, within about a minute of a bit of clicking, you've got the entire grid completed. So I find that kind of end game quite satisfying. It's a trick that's been done plenty of times in Sudokus to get to this kind of lots of pairs stage, and then just have one thing that disambiguates it, but isn't available until right at the end. I think that's kind of neat. It's good fun. Nice little trick. Hopefully it's quite accessible as well, especially that break-in. It's fairly clear that needs to be a 9 straight off the bat. It's fairly clear that there's symmetry around here, so you can do twice as much logic as you otherwise might if you took everything one step at a time, if you recognise that symmetry. So yeah, a nice approachable Sudoku. Thank you very much for watching. Do let me know if you had a go. And yes, like I said at the beginning of the video, I am very excited to show you at least one, but probably a batch of Sudokus next week with this new rule set that I've been playing around with over the last few days. Thank you very much again for watching. Please do like, subscribe, comment. Let me know how you got on with this. Let me know if you create your own Sudokus. Send some for me to solve. I'd be very interested in solving new puzzles. And have a lovely rest of your week, and I will see you next Friday.